Could please rise for the invocation by Tina LeBlanc.
Tonight, the invocation is actually in two parts, so I'm just going to ask you to bear with me. Today is a somber day. Today we mourn as a community and as a nation. A family mourns as they have lost a son and a brother way too soon. As a community, we mourn a friend, a student, and a teammate. We all mourn a life taken too soon. We pray for the family and close friends of Justin Brady. Please bow your heads. Words seem so feeble in moments like these. Life is so precious, and death such a thief. The depth of your pain I cannot comprehend, but I'll stand alongside you in the darkness, my friend. Love is a bond that death cannot part, gone from your arms, but still held in your heart. John Margreen. As a nation, today marks the anniversary of one of the most heinous terrorist attacks on American soil, the attack on the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the plane that went down in the field in Shanksville. So many lives were lost on that tragic day. We will all remember where we were and what we were doing on that day. Please bow your heads. Lord Jesus, as we remember the tragedies of September 11th, grant us and all nations your peace. We will never forget. Please continue for a moment to bow your head and silently pray in your own way for comfort and peace for the Brady family, our community, and our nation during this sad time. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Fire evacuation notice in case there's a fire or an emergency. We have exits to the rear of the chamber, out to the parking lot, or to my left, your right, left down the stairs, and out to the rear parking lot. Could we have roll call, please?
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mr. Renier?
Here.
Mrs. DePoe?
Here.
Mr. Rutledge?
Here.
Mrs. Riley?
Here.
Chairman Krizel?
Here. Number 6, board guests, Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we welcome Enfield High School World Language teacher and coordinator Amy Jensen. Amy also has some special guests with her. I'll allow her to introduce them, but they're here tonight to talk about the Enfield High School Spanish Exchange Program.
Welcome. Just pull that microphone up so the people on our viewing audience can hear you. Yes, and make sure the red light's on. Perfect.
You won't break it.
Is that a challenge? And this chair is very low, so I'm going to lean. So my name is Amy Jensen, as Chris said, and I'm the coordinator of World Languages, and I have with me here today Sophia Santiago and Sarah Halleck, who are two students who participated in our summer study abroad program that we had this summer. So I'm really going to leave it to the girls to talk with you. We did have a project that Sarah had put together, but we weren't able to project it tonight. But go ahead, girls.
You can start. Okay. So we went to Spain in the beginning of, or the end of June and the beginning of July for 2 weeks. And we went to school on weekdays from 9 to 1. And then in the afternoons, we, did like different things through our, the town we were staying in, Salamanca. And then on weekends, we did different excursions. And yeah, do you want to go?
So we did excursions to places like Madrid and Toledo, Avila, Segovia, and in those towns we went on tours, saw the cathedrals, all the religious places, all the important places to them, and
then after like school we would go home and eat lunch, and then go back out on the town with like our whole group, and we would go for like 1 night or 2 nights. We went to tapas, and then we would go on like to different museums in the town and different tours just of like the town's history, and we did a dance class and a cooking class. So it was like really fun, and you made bonds with people from our school that like we wouldn't always like normally hang out with, so you like get to meet new people.
So the way it worked is we stayed with a host family, so we all got into partners. So I was with someone, she was with someone, and then we got connected with a host family, and we stayed in their house, and they hosted us, they fed us, they helped us, and yeah.
So what the girls seem to have missed is the major point was that the major point is that they were totally immersed in the language. So from the moment that we arrived, Sarah could tell you a funny story when she walked through customs and had that initial culture shock where the customs agent spoke to her in Spanish after however many hours you'd been up and you were very confused. And the initial 2-hour drive from Madrid into Salamanca, we get there and the director of the language school got onto the bus and said, "Welcome" in Spanish, now say goodbye to your teachers. And they all went off with their host families. So the idea of total immersion in the language for I think it was 15, 16 days in total. So great language school that we've used. Now this is the second time that we've done this exchange. We go every other year for the Spanish, and we're still trying to get our French study abroad off the ground. So we're hoping this summer that students will be going to a language school in Quebec to have the same experience. So classes, what you want to talk a little bit about the classes? You took 2 classes a day. So what were those 2 classes that you took?
So the first one for me was grammar, and then the second one is communications. So it was, we had 2 different teachers. So for 2 hours we were with one teacher for whatever it was, grammar or communications, and then we switched. We got like a little break, and then we switched to the other class. And the first rule of the school was always in Spanish. You could only talk in Spanish, no English. It was
Yeah, because we went with Windsor, and so among Windsor and Enfield there were 2 classes, and like between the kids were mixed from each like town. So like Sarah was in a different class than me, so for her first having grammar, our class would have communications. So like, and then we had the same teachers, so it was kind of nice that we could help each other out when we would go home and have homework and that kind of thing. And then so we like total Spanish, but then it was nice during the break when we could like kind of like talk to our friends and like talk in English and kind of have like a moment of like relief. And then
we went back to our host families, and we had to
talk in
to them in
Spanish
Spanish and try to figure out sentences that they would understand with the words that we knew.
Yeah. But it was very like good because your partner and yourself, like, or your roommate, they like different stuff, so you can help each other out with trying to say stuff. So it was very like you really had to work together, because sometimes I wouldn't know what to say, but my partner would, and vice versa. So it was very like group work. You really had to use each other and rely on each other. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about the binders?
Binder, yeah. So throughout the 2 weeks, we got a binder. With it had like a ton of different papers and a ton of different questions about everything that we were experiencing, everything we saw, learned, and we had to fill it out throughout the 2 weeks and then finish it when we got back. And it was just for us to understand what we were seeing and understand how that was different maybe from here in the United States.
Like a lot of like comparisons and like just making sure, like even as simple, like one worksheet was just on like the dollar versus the euro, so like it was just like really like getting like immersed in the culture and really comparing it to yourself. And you like, we say comparing, but there are a lot, or you would think there are a lot of contrast, but there are a lot of comparisons that are like very similar, and you think, oh, it's like you're going to a different country, it's completely different, but there are a lot of things that they're just like the US. It's like just different people in a different area of the world. So anything else?
So, just what would be your one favorite thing that you liked, the best thing that you thought about the trip? Don't put them on the spot.
Well, I liked everything.
Yeah. It's really hard to, I mean, I'll say it. When I was going to the bus ride to the plane home and going, like, getting off, like, and going to the school, I was crying the whole time. I did not want to come back. I was, like, I loved it so much because it's just so different, and I love traveling, and it's, like, such a great experience. So, but if I had to pick one thing, I really liked the dance class because it really, like, pushed you out of your comfort zone, because there were a couple other towns from Connecticut, or even there was a town from North Carolina there. So, like, you, like, it was funny because we're all American, so you kind of feel that like same American awkwardness between you, but like we all like had to do it, so it was like really fun. And yeah.
I would say my favorite thing is the cooking. I'm a picky eater, but even there was things I enjoyed, and the way they use fresh food and like certain foods differently, it was good.
Yeah, and our host moms are like really accommodating. Like
Very.
they like the first thing my host mom asked me was like, "What do you like to eat?" Like you know,
Same.
they really wanted to make sure you were comfortable, and not just like feed you stuff that you don't want to eat because you're there for 2 weeks. So you know, you're living there. It's not like you know just like a weekend or a day thing.
And if I'm being honest, I made like a bond with my host mom. Like I missed her. Like we were hugging before we got into the bus to go to the airport, and I was like so sad and tearing up, and I missed her. I miss her.
Anything else?
No, I think that was good.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I do.
Please.
How many students went in total from Enfield? And was it comparable to the amount that went from Windsor also?
So we had 8 students that went this time. The first time that we did the trip 2 years ago, we had 14 students. So 14 the first time, 8 this time.
So how do you think your Spanish is now that you're home?
So
You've done this whole presentation
Yeah.
in Spanish?
I'm being honest, once I got home, I was like a relief. I was like, I don't want to speak Spanish for a while, but the first day of school, or first day of Spanish class for me, like, our Spanish teacher speaks only like Spanish to us in class, and it was honestly easier to understand her and to come up with words. Like, a student was like trying to say something in English, and we were like, no, you have to say it in Spanish, and she was having a hard time, and it was easier for me to come up with the words because that's what I would have to do with my host mom. I would have to figure out a way to say and communicate to her what I wanted to do or what I needed.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Neville?
Would you recommend it to other students?
110%.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so worth it.
But you definitely have to be able to like get out of your comfort zone because it's not something. It's very different. Like I said, there are a lot of like similarities, but it really is different because you're not with your parents, you're not with like your siblings. You're really like
My first
Miss
day was
Jensen
hard.
became like my like
Mom.
rock. Yeah, like our mom. Like she was the one that was always there for us. Like
She
you
was
know,
like, it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay.
like, with
You're going to
any,
love
like,
this.
Yeah, anything we were like Miss Jensen, Miss Jensen, Miss Jensen.
It was great.
Yeah, and Miss Romano as well.
Miss Romano as well.
I think that I liked when you talked about getting out of your comfort zone, because I think you learn the most when you have to get out of your
Yes.
comfort zone, and you can't just fall back on it. So
Exactly.
that appealed to me very, very much. So thank you for coming and talking to us. This is great. I know when we put this together several years ago, you folks were looking for it. You know, you always wonder how it's going to come out, and it sounds like with you two, it came out incredibly positive. So thank you very much.
Mr. Ryder?
How are the host families selected? And in reverse, are you working with host families here in Enfield to reciprocate the experience that these students had?
So we actually attend a language school called Colegio de Libes, and the host families there are vetted in a very, Miguel, who's the director, he is very strict with his host families. He uses families that he's used for the past 10, 15 years. He is very well known in the city of Salamanca. Salamanca is very much a study abroad type of place. There's lots of different language schools, and Miguel is known as one of the best and one of the best schools to work for as a host. So, yeah, as he says, if things are not going well, those families do not host for him ever again. So we did have, where you actually ended up having to switch. We make sure that the students are only in, so the girls are only with other girls and the boys are only with other boys. And Sophia's actually her first home. The woman had students from another language school. She had some male students, and as soon as we told Miguel, it was within 10 minutes they were into another more appropriate home. So it's very, very good.
And are we working on something to reciprocate that?
No, we don't. So this is just a language school that we attend. We don't have, I know in the years past we used to have a sister school program with Valladolid, Spain, and we don't have that. Our students go to this language school.
Mr. Poe?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to sort of make a comment and point out that I took 9 years of Spanish and never had anything like this opportunity. So you guys, everyone that's taking part of this program, you know, I know that you girls feel fortunate based on what I'm hearing from you, but I hope that everyone in the community realizes, you know, what a great thing this is. And it's not necessarily that common of an opportunity, so it's really special that we're able to do this for our students here in Enfield. So I just want to point that out and say, boy, am I jealous. And that I really loved what you said, your comments about realizing that people in another country are really a lot more like us than maybe we think they are. I think that that's really wise words from a high schooler, and I think that we would all do really, really well to remember things like that and just keep that in the back of our minds as we go through or try to work through challenging times, that we are more similar than we are different. So thank you for that. That was great.
Mr. Rutledge.
Good evening. One of the things you mentioned that you're looking to do a French exchange program as well, and I think Quebec is a great place. I've traveled there a few times. It's beautiful up there. How's that going? Are you looking into maybe exploring a partnership with like McGill University or some of the universities up there for that, or how would that work out?
So we've actually made contact and located a language school similar to Colegio de Libes. It's Ed Inter. We tried to have that study abroad 2 years ago because, again, they run opposite years, and we didn't have enough student interest. So this is the next year to see if we can get enough student interest from our French students to travel. We're hoping that we will.
Great. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you
I'm sure
very
it'll be
much.
great.
Thanks.
Well, thank you again. I did go on a school trip to Spain back 34 years ago. It was a one-week trip, and it's a very nice, very beautiful country. I do remember our tour guide kept saying, to the left, no, to the right, to the right. She kept pointing left.
Yeah.
So she had a hard time understanding us too, but it was a great time, and I'm glad you had a great time, and thank you for bringing the stories to us.
Great. Thank you very much.
Not so fast, guys. Now I got to do it again in Spanish.
No.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next guest, we're proud to introduce our 2018-2019 Teacher of the Year, Mr. Tony Allegro. Tony's a social studies teacher at Enfield High School, and we've asked Tony to formally come and address the board to celebrate Tony's achievement and continue to offer Tony the best of luck in the state process, where we're hoping he'll be named State Teacher of the Year and then ultimately National Teacher of the Year. So without further ado, I give you our 2018-19 Teacher of the Year, Tony Allegro. And he's scaring the media off. Stay for the good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Mr. Drezek and Mr. Longy and the board and central office staff, all your support. As you may have seen in my video, that Guy Barassa did very well with his special effects. He should probably win an Oscar for that one. This means a lot to me because I grew up in this town. I've lived in this town all my life, and it's amazing. I look at some of the people in front of me, and I see fellow neighbors, and Mr. Neville here not only was an old neighbor of mine, but also gave me my first teaching job. So without Mr. Neville, I don't think I'd be here. So
you're saying that I passed this down to him, that's all?
But no, it's I gotta say, I couldn't have done it without my colleagues this year. Last year I had a baby in the beginning of the year, so I was going to school with little hours of sleep, but my colleagues are awesome. School staff is awesome, and the kids just made me look really, really, really good. We have some superstars in our school that really shined in my classroom this year, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with this award. But you take a step into Enfield High, and it's kind of amazing. You look at the staff. There's people that I have gone to school with that are teachers. We have so many people from the community that were born in this community that are proud teachers at our schools. And it's really uniquely Enfield. And there's something to me that's very special in this town, and it's, you know, even in trying times like this week, you really see how our community shines together and overcomes a lot of obstacles. But as a proud member of this community, I mean, I'm the luckiest guy on earth to get this award from my peers and from my neighbors and from my superiors at the school. I personally, there's many teachers probably in my department, some of them are probably in this room right now, that I think are incredible, do more amazing stuff than I do. So, I mean, it's truly an honor and humbling to get this. But these kids, going back to the kids, it's really, they did some amazing things. One of the things that sticks out this past year was our community action learning class that was in our pilot year last year. And I was lucky enough to get chosen to teach that class. But these kids raised over $4,000 in the course of a year, just about 40 students altogether. It's a semester class, so I had 2 different classes. The first semester, these kids raised over $2,000 to give to children at CCMC in Hartford over the holidays, so they have a memorable holiday where they are. But just amazing. And then this past spring, they raised over $2,000 for local veterans to help them transition back to civilian life. And it's just, truly, if you give kids a challenge, they rise to the occasion. And every day I sat in that classroom, in that new class, and I was amazed. But we do so many awesome things. And like the students that were just here before, we have teachers that go above and beyond. We have students that go above and beyond to put these programs together for our kids. And it is just, it's awesome. It's awesome. It really is. And I was at an early age growing up in this town. My mother was very involved in local communities and organizations. And as I get older, I realize the value of that. But not only to get involved, I always tell my students, if you don't like something in the town, you have the ability to change it, right? And that class just offers the perfect platform for them to really make a difference and make a change, and they love it. They absolutely love it. So I couldn't be happier that the board agreed to add that class to our curriculum. But it's just, I mean, at times I'm just lost for words. I'm just so appreciative for everything everyone's done for me in this town. And the one thing, now it's my time to give back to this community as a teacher. I've had so many awesome teachers in this town. And I knew, if you look at my 6th grade yearbook, it's funny. I looked at it the other day from Hazardville Memorial. It said, Tony Allegro, future profession, history teacher. So I'm really living out my childhood dream. But at a very young age, I knew I just had amazing teachers all throughout elementary school, JFK and at Fermi, RIP Falcons. But it's just, now it's my time. I want to be, when I'm in that classroom, I want to give my students the same experience that I had. And when you create something great and you create an experience that great, you never want to leave. You know, hopefully these kids want to grow up, and when they become adults, they want to have kids in this town and give that experience back to them as well. And it's cool how do you see that cycle go full circle. And now I get to teach next to some of the teachers that I thought were the coolest, most interesting people. And still to this day, I'll be in the teacher's lounge and I look next to me and I'm just like, wow, this is for real. Like that. I used to think that was, you know, like, it's awesome. So I couldn't be more appreciative, and I thank you very much for your support and everything. And I will do my best, hopefully, if I get selected to go on beyond the state level. But if I don't, it's just been remarkable, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. That's all I got, Chris. Was that good time? Better than my 20 minutes on that video.
Shorter than your video. Good job.
Well, I looked at your 8th grade yearbook, and it's Mr. Neville signed it. It said Future Teacher of the Year. So.
There you go. Predicting the future right there.
Congratulations. We present him this?
All right.
All of us? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you again. Thank you. Oh, please, Ms. LeBlanc.
I just want to add something to show you the type of person and teacher that Mr. Allegro is he also coaches a sport at the high school. And a friend of mine, a very near and dear friend of mine, was having some issues with her student and wasn't necessarily in the class of Mr. Allegro, but someone he had coached in the past. And she reached out to Mr. Allegro for help, and he was really helpful with her and her student. And so sometimes teaching just goes beyond the kids sitting in the classroom. So when I saw that you were Teacher of the Year, I was not surprised, because you definitely go above and beyond. And I think that when a teacher can hear that in the community that people are saying that, or a mother and a father can reach out to you, I think that's important too. So thank you.
Ms. Riley.
I watched your video that went out to all the teachers. You should definitely do TED Talks for sure. And I just wanted to know, when do you find out when you move on to state or whatever? Do they have? Oh, mid-September. Cool. Well, we wish you the best of luck on that one. Thank you. Rooting for you.
Mr. Neville.
I'll make another prediction. You'll be on the school board when you come up to our level here. But in all honesty, we appreciate your thanks for our support, but it's us who appreciate what you're doing. This is what we get into this for. And we want to see this kind of thing. We want to see exceptional people like you come up here and represent our kids and do all the things you do for our kids. So on behalf of all of us, thank you.
Mr. Renier.
Tony, I just wanted to say we share the Falcon bond, and I just wanted to congratulate you again. Not only do you teach students in the classroom, but on the field and in the community as well. When you came with that presentation the last time, I mean, what don't you do? So I mean, you are great, and I know the rest of the teachers in the high school as well think the same about you as you do to them. So it's no wonder why it's such a great high school when we have professionals such as yourself and everyone else in there. So thank you again.
And I want to add again, thank you. We don't get paid for this, but we are honored to sit here, to have teachers like you work at our schools, and to hear people complain, and we just know that they're not true. We know what teachers do at our schools, and you're right in the front line of that. So thank you very much. Letter C, teacher evaluation presentation. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now we get to talk about how we evaluate teachers like Tony. Tony already got another gift by the cancellation of convocation this year, so in lieu of having to give a speech in front of 1,000 of his colleagues, he had to come here tonight and talk to you guys. So, but we're very grateful and proud of Tony. And last but not least, our last guest of the evening is JFK Assistant Principal Sarah Haran, an Enfield High School social studies teacher and colleague of Mr. Allegro, Mr. Gray Wanzer. They're here to talk about and give the board an update on our teacher evaluation process.
Welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. We promise to be short here, so we won't take up all of your time. We really appreciate you making time for us to come and speak to you about the teacher evaluation manual. We really took a lot of time this year in trying to make some revisions, and we hope you are impressed by or are happy with what we've done so far. Did you want to give a little brief overview, or did you want me to go right into it? Or?
Whatever, yeah, I can. Sure,
Okay, you
sure.
go.
Yeah, all right. Evening. We're here because 2 years ago we opened a brand new high school, and at that time, the two former co-chairs of this committee, there was a lot going on then, and so revisions to teacher evaluation was something that had to be put off. So last year, the committee reconvened for the first time in about 2 years, so we had a lot of stuff in front of us to do. What I want you to understand about the stuff we're going to go through here, I think the most important part is we have a committee of 12, 13 people made up pretty much equally of teachers and administrators, and all of these changes that we're proposing to you tonight, they were all voted through unanimously. These were things that we all got together. We have teachers, administrators from every level, a very diverse group, and that's what I want you to understand primarily about these changes. These are all things that we thought would be good for teaching and learning. So.
One piece that we really took a lot of time in looking at was our educator rubric. We have multiple rubrics for our specialists. We haven't gotten to those yet. That's something we looked as a goal for this year. But we spent some time looking at the evaluator, or the educator, I'm sorry, rubric. And we really looked at domains 1 and 4. And we tried to make the indicators a little clearer, more concise. We had a lot of information within one indicator, and it was really hard to be able to appropriately document all of that. So we were able to kind of separate out some of the indicators to make them more manageable when we're, as administrators, going in to evaluate teachers, but also for teachers to know what the expectations are of them. We gave an example on the sheet that we provided to you of what we had in the old document, and then what the new indicator says. So before it was, teachers having to communicate and collaborate with colleagues and families. We now have it just communicating and collaborating with colleagues. But then what we did is we had other indicators where we have it focused on families. So we still have that information. We just broke it up so that way teachers, knew exactly what we were looking for, and we weren't adding those pieces together. Another thing that we changed within the document, we didn't change the actual requirements for the SLOs, which is the student learning outcomes. But what we did was we changed the actual examples within the document. What was in the document previously were examples taken from the SEED document from years ago, and that wasn't reflective of what our teachers are using as examples. So we wanted to make sure that we were showing teachers, what they were actually using for their examples within the document. So it was more relevant to what our teachers have for information. That again goes onto the second page with a few more examples for the middle school and the high school. The last piece that we really looked at over this past year were our surveys, especially with the pre-K to 2. Some of the language wasn't really appropriate for that age level. It was a little bit hard for them to understand, so we tried to make it more at their level, so that way we would get better data from those students. Do you want to talk about the procedural and long-term?
Yeah. Just a couple of quick things about the first and second area here, just to kind of extend a little bit of what Sarah mentioned. The item 1 on the first side that you see there, the item in the box, the old document and what we're proposing here, it's not that the things that we edited out were unimportant. We just felt that they were very important, so we wanted kind of to give them their own area there. So you'll see that reflected below in E, F, and G. number 2, the item about the SLO and IAGD changes, you see at the box at the bottom of the page, there's discussion about my students, and there's a lot of talk about the teacher. We're updating that with stuff on the backside. You'll notice is about what the students are doing. It's not really what about the teachers doing in this context, because it's about their level of growth. So we just wanted to make things more consistent, more streamlined, less confusing for both educator and evaluator. And then at the bottom of the page, we have some long-term goals. As Sarah mentioned, we need to look at the matrix and the indicators for other positions, specialty positions. We need to have a continual dialogue about what's called administrator calibration, which is if you're all administrators, we look at things from different perspectives naturally. So it's just making sure that we account for that when we're evaluating and make sure things are as consistent as they can be in any realistic basis. So we hope to meet several times this year and continue on with the work. So I think at this time, I guess if there are questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
And we will make sure that you have the full document electronically. We did reference some pages, so we'll make sure that gets sent out to you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are looking at this as an evolving document. Okay, in the past, in the old days when I was doing it, it was done and it stayed that way until the next version came up. And I think these things here, if you're looking at and you're getting feedback from your teachers that this needs to be clearer, or it's just not doing what it's intended to do, you guys are sitting down and fixing it and addressing it in a better way. So kudos to you for doing that. It sounds like you're going to keep doing that. Keep it up. Thank you very much.
Ms. Riley.
I just wanted to say that I like the way that the new wording looks like it's coming out in the new documents, even from somebody who doesn't get, evaluated or give evaluations. It seems to me that it's a lot clearer. So that's great. I think you guys are doing an awesome job with this. Thank you.
Well, we can change that. They can evaluate you, too.
That's fine. I'll take it.
Are we all set, folks? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, guys. I just want to say why they're here. They're a bit humble. There's a lot of work that went into this process initially, and then obviously, as Gray mentioned, a 2-year absence from it. These folks on this committee, in particular, the 2 individuals that were here tonight, put a lot of time and effort into not just this process, but also the process of getting it in front of you and getting it in front of the state of Connecticut. So it doesn't go unnoticed. We do appreciate the work that the entire committee does, especially with the leadership of that committee. So I want to thank Sarah and Gray for all the work that they've done behind the scenes, and that they will continue to do as we recalibrate everybody to make sure that they're adhering to the document appropriately. So thank you on behalf of all of us. I know it was a boatload of work that I can't believe you volunteered to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, the superintendent's report. Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is obviously this is our first meeting of the school year. Obviously, the last meeting we had was held over at Enfield High School for the Hall of Champions, so it's an opportunity to welcome students and staff back. I certainly didn't anticipate that we would have weather-related issues on the first day of school, particularly with a calendar change, but I guess I aggravated Mother Nature in some capacity. So I apologize for that, and I'm going to apologize for the winter now and just get it over with. But obviously, as well as to be expected with the first few days of school, obviously with recent events, things weren't as well as we'd have liked to, but I'll address that later on in the superintendent's report. I did want to use this opportunity to give you an update on the summer cleaning process. Last time we met in these chambers, we'd had discussions about the process of cleaning Henry Barnard in response to the OSHA citation. I know we had discussions with the town council. I believe we mentioned it at our last board meeting here, but for the folks in the audience and those who are at home, what we had done, and I'll mention this again in the fiscal portion of my superintendent's report, is with the remaining funds that we had this school year that were transferred over to the town council, the agreement that we had come to with the council was any funds that we could help supply, that all of our elementary schools would be cleaned to the same standards that Henry Barnard was cleaned per the OSHA citation. Obviously, the initial concern was having the manpower over the summer for our B&G and our custodial services staff to do all that related work with removing shelves and things like that. But the town was able to procure a contractor to come in and assist custodial services over the summer to do that. I can happily report, I know I've sent emails to you guys, but this is the first time publicly to say that all of our elementary schools were cleaned to the exact same standards as the citation through OSHA. I can't thank the B&G and custodial crew enough. Anyone, if you had an opportunity to go through any of our buildings, not just the elementary schools, but JFK and the high school, having the opportunity to walk the buildings, I think someone was going to challenge me to do it. Luckily, they didn't, but you can eat off the floors in some of those buildings. So regardless of what you may hear or what you may see on social media, our staff takes an enormous pride in keeping those buildings clean. Those are their kids in there, too. And they do a tremendous job year after year, and this year was no exception. So our buildings are in as good a shape they can be for the age that they are, and I know there'll be an update later on with regards to facilities, but all of our buildings are in very good shape, and that's because of the hard work of the men and women that work on the town side that help us out. With regards to the next item, we wanted to formally welcome our new official town manager, though he's not really new to anyone. Mr. Bromson has now officially been named the town manager, I believe, as of last week. Unfortunately, there was a scheduling conflict, and he wasn't able. He'd like to come in person and reintroduce himself to the board. We're going to do that at a future date, but I wanted to at least make sure it got on here that we recognize and welcome. And Chris, I guess he never really left, so I can't welcome him back. But wanted to take the opportunity to formally welcome now that he's officially the town manager, and we're all excited to have a friendly and familiar face working with us. We've had a great relationship with Chris over the years in the many roles that he's had, and we certainly look forward to having that relationship with Mr. Bromson going forward. So he does plan on addressing the board at some point when his schedule permits, but we wanted to take the chance now to welcome him officially. I mentioned fiscal issues earlier. I wanted to give you an update. I know I sound like a broken record, but I can't predict I'll ever be able to say this again, so I'm going to say it one more time. As you're well aware, when we went through the fiscal crisis stemming from the state fiscal crisis last year and then ultimately the freeze that was imposed here, the commitment that we made was that we would try to be as fiscally conservative as we can with the funds that we had during last fiscal year, and any remaining fund balance that we had, we would have a discussion with the town council with regards to, instead of just randomly cutting a check for something that we didn't necessarily need, but try to work together with the council and remind people that when the town side of government was cut over $9 million, there was no negative effect to the school board spending whatsoever. The Board of Education didn't receive any of the cuts that were imposed by the state of Connecticut. So part of that, the Board of Education presented a very large fake check to the town council at the end of last fiscal year of about $100,000. I can report, and I don't want to steal Ms. Riley's thunder from the Finance Committee meeting report, but I will mention that the original amount we had shared was anticipation of about $100,000. It's a little bit more than that. In theory, it's about $101,000, but there was also a little bonus, and I mentioned Mr. Bromson earlier that the day after he was appointed officially to the job, I called him with a little bit of a present that he's going to get about an additional $44,000 from the Board of Education from last year. That's not because we found money anywhere. That was actually because of during last fiscal year, as some of you are aware, towns across the country, and especially in Connecticut, were asked to take displaced students that were affected by hurricane areas such as Puerto Rico. Enfield had about 16 students that were called displaced students that we accepted here in Enfield that lived with family members and attended our schools throughout the year. During that process, the state of Connecticut notified all superintendents that there would be a grant award process if we were to apply for it, for reimbursement for some of the funds that we would have used to offset the expenses of these kids coming into our schools. We weren't optimistic that a check would be sent. However, Julie Carroll and Patty West went through the grant application process anyway, and it's really because of their hard work and diligence that we were awarded last week a check of, we haven't received the check yet, but we got an award letter from the state of Connecticut that we should be in receipt of about $44,000 from the state of Connecticut. The catch with that is it applies to last fiscal year. So in an era of transparency, I notified the town manager that when the check comes in, it does need to be applied to last year's expenses, and that we would continue to pass that along as we promised that we'd pass any additional funds from this year over. So this time, Mr. Bromson did share with me that when we actually get the physical check, maybe we can present it at a town council meeting with a real check this time. so they can actually take a picture with a check that won't bounce. So that's where we are, and I know Ms. Riley has an update from the
Not
Finance
sure about
Committee
the bouncing part.
that she'll share later on in the evening. Over the summer months, we received a copy of the Hazardville Grammar Class of 1917 Graduation Exercise Program, along with a note from the man who discovered it. I believe he discovered it through a tag sale. We've enclosed the note and the program in your packet, and with the board's approval, we're going to ask that we can forward this on to the Enfield Historical Society. It's actually pretty neat if you get an opportunity to take a look at it. We also have some new things going on this year, particularly with what we're referring to as our new alternative program. Some may not recognize that during the last legislative cycle, the state of Connecticut changed the requirements for any alternative program that a Board of Education provides to students. And in order to do that, in essence, the program has to mirror the same program the student would receive in their regular education setting. We were aware of that. We were working behind the scenes to see how we were going to be in a position to actually adhere to what the state law and regulations were, and also to create a program that was going to be responsible in town to meet the needs of our kids, but also responsible that we can afford to have a program that would meet all the requirements. Because we had some transition that we weren't expecting over the summertime with retirement, we've made the decision that we were actually going to merge two departments together. So our alternative department, and for the retirement of our adult education director, we were able to merge those two groups into the Enfield Alternative and Adult Education Program. Mr. Salgowski, as you may know, was a fit for that role, given his experience working not only with adult ed during his time at Enfield High School, but also working with a lot of the students that typically would go through the alternative ed program, and luckily he was willing to do it. So we made the unusual decision during the middle of the summer to make an administrative change and put Mr. Salgowski in that program to get it up and running. A formal presentation on the specifics of the program. Keep in mind that the decision to actually move forward and pull the trigger to do this, as you are well aware, because I notified you, came in about August. I know that Mr. Longi, Mr. Salgowski, and Mr. Malley, and also with the help of Ms. Chapdelaine, who is our retiring adult ed director, have been working diligently through the summer to put together a program that we can present formally to the board. We are currently taking students, but the program is currently housed at the annex. One of the requirements for the program was we were not unique in not having the resources at the time to meet the needs of what the state law was. A lot of our surrounding districts, particularly ones that are smaller than us, were in the same predicament that we were. So we've been having conversations for the last year, at least I have been, with colleagues in our area about what exactly we're going to do when we're forced to have these types of programs. Knowing that we had a few resources at our disposal, meaning we had the physical space, we have the location, and now with that last piece that I mentioned earlier, having the staff and the resources to adhere to a program, I volunteered with our neighbors that we would start building the program with the hopes of bringing in students from other towns for tuition in order for that program to be self-sustaining and maybe ultimately generating revenue. I've gotten commitments from 2 districts. I've had conversations with others that want more information once it's official. But the 2 districts who will remain nameless at this time have already made referrals for students to come to our program. We haven't accepted them yet, but we're still very early in the year. But that's all part of the unveiling that will ultimately come in front of you when Mr. Salgowski and Mr. Longi, or Andrew as we like to call him, will formally present to you at a further date. But I know we've had conversations throughout the summer, but not in a format like this, and I just wanted to remind you and the public at home, in case word gets around that we have a new program in town. It is true, but like anything else, we were charged early on in this budget process last year to start thinking a bit differently. I remember specifically being told right to my face from the mayor, we need to change the way we're doing things around here. And this is an example of us trying to not only more importantly, meet the needs of our kids, but try to utilize the resources we have in town to help pay and sustain for these programs. So we're well on our way. I know they've done a lot of work in a short period of time, and in the relatively near future, we'll have something in front of you guys more formalized. Cards for first responders. Some of you, all of you are aware of Miss Lori Gates, who is one of the most remarkable women I've ever met in my life. Ms. Lori Gates is a constant advocate for raising funds, awareness, cards, cookies for first responders and for our military veterans. And every year, Ms. Gates reaches out to me to see if there's any kind of opportunity that the school system can partner with some of her endeavors. This year was no different. Coincidentally, with today, as Ms. LeBlanc mentioned earlier, being the anniversary of 9/11, over the summertime, Ms. Gates reached out and wanted to know if we would, again, we've done this in the past, ask all of our principals and Lou down to our teachers that if our kids would be willing to write a note for a first responder. And I'm happy to report tonight that just today, Ms. Gates delivered over 420 cards made by Enfield Public School students to our police, EMS, and 6 fire stations that she hand-delivered today. Again, the recognition and the appreciation go to our, not just our administrators, but our teachers and our kids who put the time and effort. And she has sent me some samples of what the letters are that the kids have written, and I'll send that to you electronically. That's how I received it. But it's a constant reminder of the good things that happen here, and I think it's important for you all to see. But really the appreciation goes to Ms. Gates, as some of you know, just sitting through a Reads Across America ceremony. That doesn't happen in this community if it's not for her. And we're very lucky to have somebody like that working with us and working alongside of us to help bring awareness for the people who most deserve it. So thank you to Mrs. Gates, and we're going to continue, and I know there's things coming up for the holidays and making cookies to send overseas to active duty military folks, and anything we can do to help support the causes that she's behind, we're certainly going to do. This is a long one because it's the first one, I swear. Family Day, I had a question earlier. Family Day will be on Sunday, September 16th. We encourage all families to be part of the townwide celebration. It'll be held on the Enfield Town Green at 11:30 a.m., and in your packet is the flyer. We'll resend that out electronically per someone's request. I can't remember who. It might have been Mr. Rutledge. I apologize. You caught me right before the cameras went on, so I believe it was Mr. Rutledge. There's a list of September events in your packet. And lastly, I just want to address, as Ms. LeBlanc mentioned earlier during her invocation, I'd like to briefly address the tragic events over the past few days. And first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with Justin's family and friends, and as we as a district will continue to support the Brady family in any way we can during this horrible time. To say that we're all shocked and devastated by this news would be an understatement, yet our focus will remain on supporting our students and families throughout this difficult period. I do want to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for the partnership with the Enfield Police Department, in particular Chief Fox and our new town manager, Chris Bromson, whose leadership and guidance has helped all of us deal with this tragedy. I find it a bit ironic that on this day of national remembrance, where we celebrate the heroics of first responders from one of the darkest days in our history, we got to see firsthand the work and commitment of Enfield's finest, and we couldn't be more thankful for that. So I also want to express our appreciation to all of our staff members who went out of their way to make sure that our kids had a friendly face the minute they walked into Enfield High School yesterday. Our teachers, our counselors, and all of our staff have always put the needs of our kids first, and this could not have been more evident than what we saw yesterday. And for this, all of us, including you, should be extremely proud. I want to thank again all of our staff, as well as our partners from Enfield Youth Services, for essentially dropping everything that they were doing in an instant just to ensure that our kids would get through this unthinkable day. And this will conclude the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Drizek. Any questions? So we move on to audiences. No audiences, so I declare it closed. Number 9, board member comments, and I'll start with Ms. LeBlanc.
I'd like to welcome all the students and the teachers back to school. It was a hot one, I agree. Lots of half days. Secondly, when the staff came back on Facebook, there was a post that said, "Welcome donuts, loud music, and a dancing eagle at EHS to welcome staff back." And Mrs. Clark was out with the eagle, and Mr. Clark is handing donuts to teachers as they're coming down the hill, which I thought was really cool. A nice way to welcome the teachers
Was
back.
the eagle? Or
No.
That was Mr. Longy.
Was it?
No.
We'll put an eagle suit in the budget for next year.
I thought that was really cool, and a nice way to welcome teachers back into a welcoming environment. I, too, would like to welcome Chris Bromson. I actually emailed him. I've seen him do work in different capacities in his tenure with the town of Enfield, and I think that he'll be a good fit for our town. One of the last things I'm going to say tonight is it's to me it's a happy thing because of what happened after, but Enfield High football had their opening game, and if you follow football in the town of Enfield, they have a very, they've been 0-9 for several years. They've been 1-9 for several years, and when the schools combined, they went into a bigger conference, which really put them up against some powerhouse schools. And on Friday night, they had their game opener against one of their rivals, Manchester, and they actually won 51-43 in their second overtime. They tied the game with 6 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and then they went on to 2 overtimes, and they held them off from scoring. So it was an incredible game for them. Some of the seniors actually laid on the field and cried afterwards because they felt like, they did it. They came out, they beat this town, they beat them in their school, and they're well on their way to having a lot of energy and mojo into the football season. So it was really nice to see that. And other than that, that's all I have. Oh, and I would have to say, somebody missed the game because they had to go be an Uber. And I had to text him and tell him what was happening. And he was like, "You're kidding me." Because right in the middle of the fourth quarter, it didn't look like they were going to pull it off. And they did, and it was just, it was an exciting night. So they're on the road again this week in West Hartford, but their first home game is September 21st. So if you're around, come on down to Enfield High.
Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Ms. Hernandez? Oh, you broke it.
I don't know my own.
The bill goes to.
Okay. So I find writing to be therapeutic, and I'm going to cry because that's what I do. But over the past couple of days, I have written quite a lot, pages and pages and pages, and condensed them into my thoughts for tonight. Over the summer, many of us had the opportunity to contribute to our community. Teachers, like Ms. O'Connor, asked people to sponsor a child in their class to surprise them with a book on their first day. It made me feel so connected to our students. Community is so key in these moments. To Justin's family, there are no words that can soothe the grief that you are feeling. I am reminded of the former Vice President Joe Biden's words at Senator McCain's funeral. He said he promised that there will come a moment that the memory of your son will bring a smile to your lips before a tear to your eye. Grief is not a static point in time. Like the moon, it waxes and wanes, at times burning brightly, and other moments a consuming darkness, but this too shall pass.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Mr. Neville.
A couple of things in no real apparent order here. First of all, I think it was a great opening, and we always seem to do things in a very hard way, even things like openings. But I think thanks to the staff and the administration and Mr. Drezik and Andy, and I think it went well. It was good. It was everything I read about it, despite the weather forecast, and that you now have a new name assigned to you from Mayor Mike Half-Day Drezik. But I hope you don't have to use it in any future hurricane days, the way things are going here. But it was a good opening and a happy opening, and so I'm pleased at that. Then we had yesterday. And we all hate days like yesterday. There's been too many of those in this country. I don't know when it's going to stop, but it's just awful. But under Chris's good things that happen here in Enfield, our staff is prepared for it, and they do a good job. I mean, we all got an email at 2:32 in the morning to let us know what was going on, and I know Andy was talking before that, and I'm sure other people were as well, and you guys were organizing the crisis team, and you were putting all the pieces together so that our kids were supported when they walked in the door. I know our chairman was there when you folks met in the morning to show his support for what we were doing. But that's a good thing. You can't make a good day out of yesterday, but that's a good thing that we were prepared and you guys did a good job. And in my experience, it's not unusual. So I commend all of you. I think you think ahead, you plan, you know what to do. You don't go looking for kudos for it, but you deserve them. So I offer you our collective commendations and the communities. And I know that what you did then and what you're doing now and what we'll do to get through the next couple of days with the school system will be just as thorough and compassionate. Another good thing that's going on in this community is, and I never bring these things up, but I had a chance to go to this one last time. ShopRite at Enfield does an awful lot of good things for the food shelf. And a lot of us work out down there, and every year they run a pasta dinner at the Mount Carmel, and it's this Friday. You probably have all gotten the memo, but my wife and I went down and worked for that dinner this past year, and they're wonderful people. They just are. The whole family is just wonderful. Mary Beth Duffy is just great, and I encourage you to go. It's good for the town. All the proceeds go back to the town. They don't take anything. They just provide everything, and they run a great thing, and it comes back. But again, it comes under the heading of the good things that happen in Enfield. And just because they're here in Enfield, they feel they're community members, they need to do it. And finally, I'd like to thank Tina for very, very appropriate and sensitive invocation. I know you were working on what was going to be a hard one for any of us, was to do the 9/11 day, but to combine the two of them, I thought you did a very, very good job, and you came up with something that was very, very meaningful and personal and compassionate. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Mr. Ryder.
So I'm just going to speak this week about a new tool that we were working on this summer that I felt was important, and it was how to increase communications between our school buildings, our staff, and our families, our parents, our students. So one of the things that I had brought up was maybe a collective website which we launched right before school started, called EnfieldPTO.com. So if you visit EnfieldPTO.com, you'll see every school here in Enfield from Stowe to Enfield High. The Stowe and Enfield High sites or pages are under construction. But you'll see Enfield Street and Parkman, Hazardville and Whitney, Henry Barnard and Crandall, and JFK. So one piece of feedback that I gotten from a lot of families was, I have a student at Parkman as well as a younger one at Enfield Street, and my older one starting at JFK. So you can just click from one tab to the next. You'll see calendars for every school. So school activities, both school-related and PTO-related, are on there. Everything from Halloween parties to book fairs to open houses, orientations at the beginning of each year, etc. I had a chance to visit the PTO meetings last week at Enfield Street and Eli Whitney. This week I'll be at the Hazardville Memorial School PTO meeting. Tonight they had one at JFK and Henry Barnard. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know when these PTO meetings are, they're all on this website. I get an email once a week or every couple of weeks from the different PTO volunteers at our schools with all their dates. All the school calendar dates are combined, so it's all in one place. And there's always room for improvement. So if you're looking for something that you're not seeing, a link that you feel would be easier, try to get everything all in one place, please just shoot me an email at info@enfieldpto.com. There's also hot lunch menu links, there's bus routes, the school calendar from Enfield Public Schools. This is something that we've done in partnership with Enfield Public Schools, and it was through the blessing of Enfield Public Schools as well as the Board of Ed that we were able to use some of their likenesses and logos, etc. But it is a work in progress, so if you are looking for something and you don't know where to find it, start there, or shoot me an email and we'll get it up there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Mr. Radier.
Thank you. I just wanted to welcome back all the students and the staff to the schools. I had the honor and privilege of going to the Eli Whitney opening day and seeing all the kids coming in for the first day. A lot of excitement, a lot of tears, a lot of fears, and the staff were there to welcome everyone at the door and to put those fears in aside and really help out with the overall environment of the school, and it really made for a great first day. So kudos to the staff over at Whitney, and I know all across the district as well. Tomorrow night is the Hazardville PTO, as Scott had alluded to. So if you are Hazardville Hazardville family, tomorrow night is the PTO meeting at 6 o'clock. I want to echo the comments of Tim in regards to the leadership here at the Board of Ed. Mr. Drezik, Mr. Longi, communication is key, and I think the past couple weeks that hasn't been more evident than what we needed. People knew that we had half days. They knew why we had half days. It wasn't just because we wanted to cut slack for kids. We had an early release day because of the heat and the hot weather, and I think that made all the difference that we were able to communicate that out to the community. So thank you for that. And Guy for those robocalls. And also, unfortunately, to the tragic events that had occurred, Mr. Drezik, it was appreciative to get that phone call just to let everyone know that we are aware of the situation and we're actively working with it. So thank you for that as well. And to all the staff and students, too, who work together to come together as a community during that hard time. And I want to echo the sentiments of Sarah and Tina as well from earlier, and give my deepest sympathies to the town, to the families, to those grieving. It's just starting, and the pain is going to come and go. But the community is going to be here for one another, for the Brady family, and for everyone that was involved. And that's what's great about our town. That's what's great about our school district. So I just wanted to echo those thoughts as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renier. Mr. Poe.
It's kind of difficult trying to say anything especially sentimental after a few other people have already done a great job at doing it. So thank you guys for saying some of those more difficult things, so I guess I don't have to. But I also offer my condolences to the Brady family and everyone in the community who has been affected by his passing, and echo the sentiments around me that it is something that we'll all be able to pull through as a community, and know that there are resources here that we can lean on, and that Enfield has a great history of coming together in the face of difficulties or tragedies. So I expect nothing less from this one as well. A note about the new school year. Welcome everyone to the new school year. But let's remember that education starts well before kindergarten. The best thing that you can do with children below kindergarten age is bring them to play. That's the best way they can begin their learning journey. And the Enfield Family Resource Center's play groups are starting up again on September 24th. They do have an open house week this week. It started yesterday and it's going through the 13th. There are resource centers at Barnard School and Stowe. So if you want more information on that and what you can do with your little ones to sort of get them learning in a really fun environment, you can check out enfield-ct.gov/FRC, or you can go on Facebook at the Enfield Family Resource Center for more information on that. One thing that I think is always on our minds a little bit when we start a new school year is safety. Especially bus safety. So I actually wanted to ask a question to the superintendent through the chair. One little pet project of mine has always been looking into the ability to get cameras, either external or internal, on the buses. And my question to you, Mr. Drezik, is whether or not we have anything in the works that you can update us on, or if we can put that in the future to discuss.
Please, Mr. Drezik.
I can answer. I don't know how satisfactory it would be at the moment, but let me tell you why. As you know, when there was a change in leadership at the bus company and Mr. Bob Smith took over for the bus company during this past year, one of the first things he did mention to me is as they replace buses and they replace their fleet over time, there's a certain amount of buses that they bring in new. He was actually looking into getting cameras placed on some of our buses as a practice going forward. The reason for that is, as I'm sure, toward your concerns about seeing the events that may happen on buses, but it also is beneficial for the drivers to have the ability to have cameras on there to go back and look at events that may take place, and for the overall safety of everyone on the buses. So that is a discussion that we have been having. It may not move at the pace that some may like, but I can tell you the conversations have begun.
That's all I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Just as a point of information.
Please.
On that camera thing. I know we had cameras on the buses. I don't know if they were on all the buses, but because we used to use them regularly, and that was 7 or 8 years ago. So we don't have them on all the buses now?
There are some on some buses, but they're not on all. And the technology that we used to have on some buses is a bit outdated.
Yeah.
So part of the conversation was the technology now is more advanced and not as expensive as it has been in years past. So you are correct. There had been, on certain buses, there had been cameras. That's all I'd kind of like to leave it now. Sometimes it's good to not let people know where the cameras are. So I'll leave it at that. But as far as all the buses having cameras right now, no, we don't.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rutledge.
Good evening. Pardon me. First, actually, to sign Scott said, after you mentioned that, I checked out the website. It looks great. The website Scott mentioned, EnfieldPTO.com, I think it was, definitely looks like a one-stop shop there for all the information, so I just want to say good job on that. Just a couple things here. For the high school on Wednesday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. in the high school library, the Parents Advisory Council will meet again with Principal Clark. I'll be there. It's a great opportunity to ask questions of the principal, find out what's going on around the high school. There's always plenty of seating, and so we hope to see you there. As for a couple other things going on, also wanted to give a shout out to a lot of our students here in Enfield. This past weekend there was an event on the town green. It was the Walk for Alzheimer's, and I noticed a lot of our students there. And a special shout out to the girls volleyball team. There was a large contingent of them at that event. And in addition to wishing them well in the season, I just think it's great when the community can come together, to support a cause, to support anything, to help make a difference. So just wanted to thank them and everybody who showed up there as well. Obviously, I echo the sentiments of a lot of people who have spoken tonight. Thank you again for all the communication that was sent about the events over the weekend. I'm sure I wasn't alone in this. When I was getting the information and I was reading the articles, you kind of just sat back and you're like, is this really happening? It just didn't make any sense. So, my heart definitely goes out to the family of Justin, and I really want to thank everybody who's helped out, the folks at the school who helped make sure that the students had support, our first responders, the Enfield Police Department in concert with the state police. I mean, within 24 hours they had an investigator, they had a suspect in company. So, thank you, for getting that done, and that can at least start to move the process along. Obviously, Justin's family is going to be grieving forever at this point, and I can't imagine what they're going through right now. But so we definitely wish them all the best. And obviously, this school year didn't start out the way we thought, especially over their plans of the weekend. But also, as Rich said, just want to wish everybody the best of luck this school year. There's going to be new challenges, new opportunities. Like the two young ladies who were here earlier talking about going outside their comfort zone and going to Spain for 2 weeks to get immersed in the language. Going outside that comfort zone can very often be a good idea. So, I definitely encourage our students to take advantage of those opportunities, and hope it nets some benefits from you in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Riley.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to school. I hope your first few weeks, the short weeks, were good. And I wish you all luck in this coming school year. I went to the Henry Barnard PTO meeting right before this meeting, and things are underway. They still have open positions available for a vice president and a secretary. They are going to be at the Family Day on the green. They're going to have a free ring toss, and you get prizes. And they're also going to be selling school T-shirts as well. So that was a good meeting this evening. I wanted to thank the Enfield Police Department for their swift action. They're just doing a phenomenal job with everything that's come their way lately, and they've had a lot. So I wanted to thank them. They're doing a great job. thank the faculty and staff at the high school, youth services, and even the sports coaches too. Their immediate response and action to assist the students in their time of need was phenomenal. Mr. Drezik and Mr. Longy, you guys are so dedicated to the students and staff. You're right on top of everything, and you're juggling so many balls at once, and I definitely want to thank you for that. And I want to thank my colleagues up here for being there to talk to each other. I know I've reached out to plenty of you the past few days to wrap my head around what's going on here. So thank you for that also. I want to express my deepest sympathy to Justin's family, and I wish you peace in this trying time. And I just want to say that, you know, we got to come together as a community and support and lift up our children in this time of sorrow. But we also must do this in good times too. We got to teach them that it's okay to disagree and talk things out, or just walk away from a bad situation, because violence is usually never a good option for either parties involved. Right now is the time to wait for all the facts to come out, not jump to conclusions or spread gossip. We must stand together united, just like we did on this horrible day 17 years ago. Enfield is strong, and I know that we can get through this together. The tensions might be high, but let us be an example for our children and show compassion, kindness, respect, and understanding. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. So I get left with the cleanup because I have such a great board here, and I don't know why I even come to meetings, but I do. But I did get the call at 2:30 Sunday morning. I'm sorry, Monday morning. And I got the message when I got up at 6, and my first instinct was, let's go down to the I'm going to go down to the high school, see what I can do. I got there at 6:40. There was already a faculty meeting called. She had, by 6:50, she had Miss Clark had the whole faculty in the auditorium. And I just kept moving back because as they were coming in, I wanted to be behind them. I didn't want to get in anyone's way. I wasn't there to make any speeches. I wasn't there to. I just was there for support. Miss Clark came up to me. She like a lot of the teachers, they knew the student, and she put the team together. She talked to the crisis team before, and then had the rest of the faculty there fill them in on what we're doing. If they needed any help, they needed any assistance, please reach out. So they put everything where it was needed to get through yesterday, and I just want to say they did a great. What I saw, it was a great example of what we do in this town as we get together on these tragedies and put our best foot forward. And we don't want to live through this. We don't want to see this. We don't want, but it happened. Don't even want to get started on the Facebook thing because that's another story. And the staff and everybody, I commend them all. I commend the police for getting on the scene right away, getting in communication with our superintendent, getting the people, getting the investigation rolling, getting all the staff. They've been busy too. They had an accident this morning on Elm Street, and they were rerouting people on Hazard Drive, which I wish the press would check. It's Hazard Avenue, not Hazard Drive, but first day, okay, let's go back though. The first day of school, we had a reporter at the high school and saying how it was the second year that we were at the joint high school. It was the third year that we were at the joint high school. You guys should check your facts before you come on camera. But again, let me go back again. Now we had the Hall of Champions opening.
Yeah. That's great.
I have a tie here that has both school colors in it. And I didn't realize it till after I bought it, because I actually bought this for my father-in-law's funeral, because he's a green. Everything was green with that gentleman. So when I saw that I had both school colors on it, I wore it that night, and I wanted to wear it again tonight for that reason. But that was a great coming together. We had all the banners put up for both schools. We recognized the building committee for all the work they've done, which I will get into during building committee updates later. I want to thank ETV for rerunning the graduation pretty much every time I was turning it on, graduation was on. So I want to thank ETV for that. And I want to thank everybody who's coming back to school. This is not the way we wanted to start this year, but we will move on. We always do. We will move on together. Enfield is known for that, to come together and work together, and we'll get through this. Any other comments from anybody? I think I've said it all. Please, Mr. Drezek.
I apologize, and unintentionally I forgot to thank one person by name, and Mr. Grisel did a nice job leading me to that, but I do have to extend my deepest appreciation for Principal Clark.
Yes, I agree. She did it.
The first phone call that obviously came to me, but the one who really sprung everything into action was Erin. And that building is in such a better place because of her leadership and her being there, and her staff, and all the teachers there. But really, she's probably not watching this now because I hope she's asleep, because I know she hasn't slept in about 3 days. But I just wanted to, I forgot to mention her earlier when I spoke, and I've said this to her, and I'll say it in front of everyone. We're extremely lucky to have Erin Clark running that building.
Yes, we are. Yeah. No, I don't want to say it. I was going to say something, but no, it's not the place. But I want to thank Principal Clark too. She did a great job getting the faculty, getting the information, going through the steps on what they needed to do. It was. There's no other words I can say, so we'll leave it at that. Number 10, unfinished business. We have none. Number 11, new business. Approval of teacher evaluation program and changes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? We had the discussion from the staff here earlier. Roll call, please.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Yes.
Chairman Krizel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
11B, approval of 2018-2019 student representatives and alternates. Do we read the names, or you want to read the names? You want me to read the names? So we have, per our board policy number 9160, our student reps are Matt Campo, grade 12, and Daniel Golden, grade 11. And the alternates are Jacqueline Dagenot, grade 12, and Sophia Santiago, grade 11. I'm sorry, names are not my strong suit.
Yeah,
So-
Sophia was here, yeah. She was one of the students.
Oh, she was here?
Oh.
Well, she was sitting at the wrong desk. We should have had her up.
We already had her up there.
So do I have a motion to accept these fine students as our representative? Moved by Mr. Poe, seconded by Ms. Riley. Any discussion? Roll
Just,
call. No, go ahead.
Just one question. Either way, fine. Do we maybe want to wait for them to be here to vote on this?
Well, I think we have to vote on it so they can be here.
Oh, I meant at least in the audience, like, for example. But I wasn't sure if that was the procedure to follow.
No, the procedure is that we have to vote on them so they can be up here.
Once you vote on them, Mr. Long and I are going to meet with them to go through the orientation process, and then they'll be at the following meeting.
Just as a clarification, the recommendation for those came from the staff administration?
Go ahead. Principal Clark, as well as the Social Studies Department, yes. And you guys recognize one of them was Matt Campo, was your representative last year.
That's great.
And if you noticed, the former principal wanted to say something, but he
wants to talk now because there's no camera.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. DePoe?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Riley?
Absolutely, yes.
Chairman Krizel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Number 12, board committee reports, curriculum. Microphone.
We canceled our meeting in August. We didn't have really an agenda at that point. We have a meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock in Elkhorn. There are two items that are going to be on the agenda, and one is state assessment scores, and the other is a vision for K-12 mathematics. We're going to get kind of an in-depth presentation about the scores, and then I've asked them, with the superintendent's permission, to come to possibly the second meeting in this month and present those scores to the rest of the board. I've also asked, and I assume she's spoken to, that could we also, when we go through the curriculum, things like the vision for the math thing, that on some regular basis, that we put maybe at one meeting a month, have those types of things both presented to us and presented to the board and to the public, so they get a flavor for that. So that's one of the things that's going to be under discussion as well.
B, finance.
We had our meeting yesterday. I have a lot to put forth for motions, and our next meeting is October 15th.
C, policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you will notice, in your packet this evening, you have the 2000 series that Kathy has so diligently put together for us, and it is in the process of going online as well. So this policy is live and will be online, and it's ready for our packets. Policy Committee has been working on the 3000 series. We finished it up during our last meeting. It's getting sent off to CABE, and then we're going to meet again next Tuesday to finalize the 3000 series before we bring it back before the board. And we will make sure that once that policy is put together, the board has ample time to review the policy as well. As a point of clarification, when we received the 3000 policy from CABE, they sent us a packet about like this big, and the current policies that we have is about this big. So they added a lot of suggestions and other flavors in there from other districts. So we are sticking to what is required by state law to have in there, suggested policies by CABE and those that we already have to make sure that they're relevant and appropriate. So hopefully when you get the 3000 series, we will not be providing you guys with a packet this big. It's going to be about this big. So you're welcome. So that was the consensus of the policy committee. We're going to be working on the 4000s after that and 5000 until we can get to the 8000s because we already did the 9. So policy committee, we're active, we're busy, we're doing some good stuff. It's fun, and Mr. Longy is a crucial part to that policy committee, and sometimes he shows up in his Eagle outfit, so it's pretty cool to see. So thank you guys.
D, leadership, we have none. E, joint facilities, we had the meeting last night where we finally approved the partial roof replacement for Henry Barnard. We had, again, I don't want to go through the process because it's throwing people under the bus and I don't like doing that, but STATE is all I can say. That we just had issues with them, so I didn't say the word, I spelled the word, so. And I spelled it wrong to begin with, but I spelled it. But it was a terrible summer with them, but it's through, it's done. They're going to work on weekends, Saturday and Sundays, so it doesn't affect any of the school students. And they claim that within, 4 weekends they can do it. And we do have a long weekend coming up in October that's going to assist us there too. So the only question is we need to get notification out to Henry Barnard that it's in the works. And other than that, we're working on other things with them, and we'll bring them to you as need be. Anything you want to add, Mr. Neville?
No, I think you spoke to the points that we made well. I think it's been a long summer. The good news is our committee did everything right and on time. The problem we have is some delays in terms of process with the state, and I think that it is what it is. Next year, because this is just the first of about 6 or 8 roofs that we have to do, we're going to start earlier. We're going to start about 6 months earlier so that we don't get caught up in this paperwork thing of getting the applications filed so we can get reimbursed. But I think the committee did a good job, and now we're working on the next steps, which is to look at the vision for the town in terms of the 33 facilities we own.
That's what was
we are.
my other
You'll get it better than I do. The second or third largest owner of land.
Enfield is the second largest property owner in
the town of Enfield. Isn't that scary? And we could have Scott show you. He found all the properties because I bet a lot of you don't even know where some of the things are that
I didn't.
We own. Okay.
I do now.
We do now. And a decision has to be made. And the Mayor Mike made a big deal of it last night at his meeting that he wants people to come back with recommendations because we can't support 33 buildings. Our facilities. That's town and
There's
school.
33 buildings, but then there's all the property we own.
Well,
too.
that's a whole different.
It's a whole
And houses
thing.
that have been foreclosed on that are
Just
you know,
land.
Yeah, it's just
Just
unbelievable.
land, too.
So we're going to our next step now, and we invite you all to come to the meetings. We're going to hire a consultant. We've been authorized to hire a consultant to present a vision of the town and looking at the properties and saying how can we make the place better, and are there properties that are underutilized, and are there properties that we can make more efficient, other properties that should go off the rolls and go onto the rolls, and where we start collecting some revenue and taxes out of them. Okay, because it's just the way it is. So it's a big deal. I think that this committee has really worked hard. We've met just about every Thursday, and then a couple of special meetings all summer. Actually, since January or February, right?
Yeah, we've been. Like
Mayor
Mike says, like Mayor Mike.
Bus trips, we took tours of the town, and
Mayor Mike says we are the hardest working committee in town, so thank you to all you who are on that committee.
I did let the cat out of the bag a little bit at the Barnard PTO meeting, so
That the
PTO
roof is coming?
That the roof is coming, so they're aware. So anything else we can get there. Exactly, yeah.
No,
I
it's,
know.
it was.
There was a lot of smiles in the room, so that's good. That's good. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted a point of clarification in regards to the school. The town committee and the Joint Facilities Committee and the Board of Education were all on board with the whole roof process before school opened, and that it was the intent of all three bodies that this roof would be replaced by the start of the school.
Over the summer, yeah.
Over the
that
summer.
that was the plan.
So just a point of clarification for those watching and those soon to watches, we wanted this to get done, and this was in the works to get done, and we even met to approve everything to get done. And then at the 12th hour, we're informed, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the process that they said we should go through was not appropriate for the state at that time and wanted it to go a different way, which delayed the process, and it's the reason why the roof hasn't been replaced at this point.
Why I spelled the word S-T-A-T-E.
You can be humble, Mr. Chair, but I'll call out the state for being negligent in this matter. I don't mind them.
They definitely are.
I visit Mass once in a while, so Connecticut's nothing to me.
we don't want to go too far. We're happy to get the grant and get 70% reimbursement, so we're trying to.
Right, your committee has to make them happy, so I greatly appreciate the time and effort that you guys have put into that, because I know from looking at everything that you guys have done, it's not just one school, it's all 33 buildings, and obviously the priority is for the schools that are needing a major rehab and a major Band-Aid, and we're looking to go past the Band-Aid and actually put a permanent fix for that. So I appreciate the job that your committee has done, because I know you guys work tirelessly on that. So thank you guys for that.
We're happy that we could get something done. We had a goal and we made it. Okay, but just to clarify one thing you said, it's getting 2 sections of a 5-section roof done. Those are the two, one over the kindergarten and one over the first grade, right? Okay, those were the sections that we are the most in need. So the rest we're hoping to get done next summer. But given the time frame, you can't work when the kids are in the building. You can't work at night because there's moisture and it doesn't let the glue dry. And all this great stuff that we learned.
There's a noise ordinance that we have to work around. So it's getting done. That's all I can say.
It's getting done.
Letter F, Enfield High School Building Committee. This will be the last report from this. So we, Kathy, we want to take this off the agenda. They had their final meeting last Thursday, and we approved a few bills, and just I mentioned this last night, and I want to mention it again. The $103 million that was appropriated for this building, to date, we have spent $1,800,000. So we are 2.2 million under budget. And we're ahead of schedule, like I've always said. And the building committee did a phenomenal job on that building, and I just praise them to no end. We recognized them last week at the or 2 weeks ago at the Hall of Champions celebration, and this is why the state. I think we're the only school that was under budget, only town project that was under budget. So
By $2 million?
Yeah, we're under by $2 million. There's still a few things have to be worked out, and that's going to be between staff and the state, and and there's some change orders that still have to be done, and we have the consultants on that. So again, I extend congratulations to that committee. They did a great job, and the building looks. Every time I walk in that building, the plaques have been put up. The old plaque was over by the auditorium, which I had somebody sandblast, but I'll leave it at that. And so that's it for that committee.
Just a point of information. That committee met for 6 or 7 years.
107 meetings.
Okay, when these people take on that, these are all volunteers. When they take it on, they're taking it on for 6 or 7 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the architect said he's never been on a committee where they had so little turnover.
Yeah, we had
one. He's been all over the state for 30 years.
We had one that moved out of town.
Yeah,
and his attendance record was going. He was only there half the time, and he was pretty much there almost the whole time. Almost every member was more than 90 meetings. That was their attendance record.
Walters was right up near the top, though. I have to say that.
Perfect attendance.
I was getting away from my wife, but now.
You better cover that, Mike.
Yes, so one left town when Art Pomegrantz retired. One replaced his duties.
Yeah. And
then I became a board member, and then one became a counselor. I mean, that's the only turnaround we had. So.
Mr. Chair, would you like to mention what the school had done for that committee as well when we went to go see the League of Justice Hall?
League of Justice.
But what the
yes,
kids
thank you for this school. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. We had a dinner prepared by the culinary school.
Culinary arts students.
And I don't have the students' names like the mayor did. The mayor is better at that than I am. But thank you for that committee and that faculty member that put that on. It was great. And then we gave out jackets to every member of the committee. So.
They got to keep their.
And they get to keep their iPads. So.
From 8 years ago.
Well, when they first came out, that was the first year that they had that new plug. And when I went to go even try to buy a spare plug, I couldn't get them. That's how new they were. So, but anyway, we're getting off this subject. So, any other committees? 13, approval of minutes, special Board of Ed meeting, July 10, 2018.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Neville, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? Show of hands, all in favor? We have 9-0-0. Regular Board of Ed meeting minutes, July 10th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Neville.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Ms. LeBlanc?
Yep.
Any discussion?
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair, I was not at that meeting, but according to Robert's rules, I can still vote
Yes, you
for
can.
approval for that.
If you read the minutes,
Yes.
you're fine. Show of hands, all in favor? All opposed? So you voted in favor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 9-0-0. I didn't see you, I'm sorry. And special Board of Ed meeting, August 7th, 2018.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion? Show of hands. 900. Number 14, Ms. Riley.
All right, so this is for fiscal year 2018 end of year. The Finance Committee met on September 10th, 2018 to review final financial statements for the fiscal year 2018 end of year expenditures and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there is nothing significant to report to the board. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that for fiscal year 2018, end-of-year expenditures amount to $1,737,163.44, broken down between accrued payroll totaling $22,955.64 and other accounts totaling $1,714,207.80. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. A balance of $101,750.73 has been returned to the town.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? I want to just say it was about a year ago in August that we had a meeting downstairs, and our illustrious state leader wanted to cut us by $27 million. This was before when they were going through the budget. So at that time, it was, okay, we got to stop, freeze everything, and with the work of the superintendent and assistant superintendent, and all the budgets were frozen, all purchases were frozen. We didn't get the $27 million because the state finally did pass a budget, but I want to thank them for all their work this last fiscal year, for having that 101,000 to return plus to return to the town. And any other discussion?
Yep. So.
Hold on, we didn't vote on it yet.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something.
Go
So,
ahead.
with the grant that we just got back for helping the displaced students, the total amount after the fact is $146,573.
That one's back to the town.
Went back to the town. Yep.
Just show of hands, right? Show of hands, all in favor? 900. Next.
Okay, fiscal year 2018 line item transfers. So the Finance Committee met on September 10th, 2018 to review line item transfer requests for fiscal year 2018. I move that the Enfield Board of Education approve the following line item transfers. From certified staff salaries, $472,584. Benefits including health, Social Security, Medicare, and life, $1,457,499, and fuel, supplies, materials, $179,939, totaling $2,110,022. Two, non-certified staff salaries, $314,589. Professional services, $1,080,550. Support services, $237,409. Educational equipment, $458,526. And dues, fees, graduation, $18,948, for the total of $2,110,022.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? Show of hands. All in favor? 900. Please continue.
All right, we've got two more. Finance Committee met on September 10th, 2018 to review financial statements for the month of July, year-to-date. So now we're in fiscal year 18-19. And examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there is nothing significant to report to the board. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of July, total expenditures amount to $1,865,474.41, broken down between payroll totaling $457,827.33, and other accounts totaling $1,407,647.08. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor? 900.
All right, last one. Finance Committee met on September 10th, 2018 to review financial statements for the month of August year-to-date and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there is nothing significant to report to the board. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of August, total expenditures amount to $3,507,384.31, broken down between payroll totaling $2,339,528.45, and other accounts totaling $1,167,855.86. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approvals for check invoices are properly documented.
Moved by Ms. Riley, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor? 900. Thank you, Ms. Riley. 15, correspondence and communications. With none? 16, executive session. Do we have a need to go into executive session? Yes, we do.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Mr. Neville. The executive session is for matters related to personnel, and we will not be, all in favor? It's a 900, and we will not be returning to public.